My name is Brad Sigal, and I'm a member of the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. I went down there, I got a text at about 9 o'clock p.m. on, it was the Sunday right before Memorial Day. I went down immediately, so disbelief. It was just like, this, how can this be happening? This is, in a great sadness and a great sense of loss, not just for our organization, although that's obviously central in my mind, but the loss also of the community. I mean, the community's not lost because the people and the organizations will move on, and hopefully as many of us as possible will continue on together. And there was a movement that really exploded all over the country that in the spring of 2006 in response to some very draconian anti-immigrant legislation in Congress in Washington, which was known as the Sensenbrenner Bill. There were, in response to that bill, which would have criminalized not just undocumented immigrants, but anybody who helps them in any way, including churches, social service agencies, family members, etc. In response to that, there hundreds of thousands and then ultimately millions of people poured out into the streets in protest from around the country. And here in Minnesota, there were a series of marches. The largest one was in April. There were 40,000 people that came out, almost all Latinos, a lot of immigrants, and then also allies and supporters coming out against this legislation and really against all anti-immigrant legislation, standing up for the idea that no human being is illegal and that legalization's the answer. When we started in 2006, we didn't have an office for the first few years, and so it was probably 2009 or 2010, I think, when we moved to Walker Church, when we got an office there. Our group did not have insurance for our office, no. For our group, for MIRAC, Walker Church was a home, and we really felt at home there because it's a church that they really opened their doors to us and wanted us, actively sought for us to move in there when they had an opening. And that's because of their ongoing commitment going back decades to working with the Latino community and with immigrants particularly. And they were very well known in the 1980s as a sanctuary church, a church that opened their doors to Central American immigrants. I think they particularly worked with Guatemalans when there was still a civil war going on in Guatemala to open their doors and give people a haven so that they wouldn't be deported back to their country and into a dangerous or violent situation. And so they did this very publicly, and they actually built a room in the church where people could live. We met this past Saturday at a library, one of the public libraries. They have meeting spaces available. And we are going to meet this coming week at a bookstore that's opened their doors to us for a couple weeks. And after that, we'll have to see. Well, the core group is about 10 or 12 people that come to every meeting, and then there's a lot of other supporters. We have a No More Deportations campaign that is broader, and a lot of people are involved in the campaign. But we're doing a fundraiser ourselves on June 23rd, a fundraising concert. We're also happy to find out that Headwaters Foundation they on their own initiative opened up an account to raise money for the 3 organizations that were housed in Walker Church that had offices there, which was MIRAC, the Welfare Rights Committee, and Communities United Against Police Brutality. They are raising money for all 3 organizations, so people can just click one button online and make a donation, and it'll get divided between the 3. We followed very closely the legislative session because there were several bills that attacked immigrants in this session. We were very active in trying to reverse the cuts from last session to emergency medical assistance for immigrants, which ultimately was largely successful. I need to look at the exact final outcome, but it was those cuts were at least partially restored as a direct result of us and other groups really putting the pressure on. And we feel pretty proud about that because it's really almost unheard of that when the right-wing politicians cut a social program that they feel enough pressure to actually restore part of it. So that was at least a partial victory. I've personally been very supportive of Occupy from the beginning and spent a lot of time down at People's Plaza in the fall and do what I can to continue supporting the movement. I think it's been a wake-up call that everyone was waiting for, to talk about inequality and basically what's wrong with capitalism in this country. our work as an immigrants' rights group continues. The attacks on immigrants, unfortunately, don't take a break just because we're looking for a new office. So we're continuing our fight against deportations, which are happening every day, and for legalization for undocumented immigrants, and encourage people to join us.